Hey neighbors, tax season is almost here, and you can help others prepare through United Way's VITA program. VITA is recruiting volunteers to help provide free, high-quality tax preparation to low to moderate income families, helping them maximize their refunds and save on filing fees. No experience is necessary and training is provided. Learn more at volunteerforvita.org. Today on CityCast Nashville, we're joined by Wes Scoggins, a local chef who bills himself as the Jewish Cowboy. Wes is respected throughout Nashville's culinary scene thanks to his pop-up events and collaborations with other chefs and restaurants all over town. You can even currently find him slinging Roberta's pizzas at Urban Cowboy. What sets his food apart is how he blends the two halves of his identity into something completely unique. He's a Jewish man from Texas, and he's constantly exploring where those two cultures meet through brisket and beyond. We're chatting about Hanukkah food traditions and his lived experience as a Jew in the American South, including his direct encounter with the neo-Nazis who threatened our community over the summer. How did this chef stand his ground in the face of hatred? Can food still bring people together? Well, stick around and find out. It's Thursday, December 12th. I'm your host, Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. You are a chef whose food is rooted in two different, very strong identities. You're Jewish, but you're also a Texan.
Yep.
So would you tell us about those two identities coming together to create the Jewish Cowboy?
I grew up in a house that really valued food, really valued cooking. And it was very important for us to care about Jewish food. And also, you know, being Southerners, being Texans, we also cared about where we lived. And, you know, I like to say that I come from two brisket cultures. And I also come from two cultures that really, really care about food and a sense of place. I think that contributes to everything that I'm doing now, which is I'm trying to take Southern and Texas favorites and Jewify them. And I'm trying to take Jewish classics and adapt them locally, which is what Jews have always done with Jewish food. It's kind of moved with the migration, moved with the diaspora, and you know, we come up with local recipes, and that's why there's not a single Jewish cuisine. There are, I don't know, it's a very minimum dozens.
How has the reception been here in Nashville?
When I started, I had no idea what the reception was going to be. It was going to be an excuse for me to make a brisket for me and my coworkers, maybe once a month, once every couple of months. And we sold out the first night within 45 minutes.
Oh,
I've been really blessed to have some really awesome reactions. One time at an event, I had a lady come up to me and she said, I have lived in the South. I've lived in Nashville my entire life. I've never felt comfortable saying I was Jewish. I've never felt at home here. And seeing you out here doing this for one of the first times in my life makes me feel like this could be home. That was kind of a moment that a switch flipped, that I realized that this actually mattered to people. And this wasn't just a goofy idea, an excuse for me to make brisket. It was something that mattered to people, and it was something that mattered to people that live here in the South and maybe sometimes didn't feel so welcome. Reactions like that have kept me going and made me realize how much something as simple as a goofy pop-up can really matter to people. Food is always saying something. Food speaks to a sense of place, speaks about where you're from, what you're trying to say, what you value. If you want to know about someone, ask them to cook for you.
Are there any uniquely Nashville aspects to the way people celebrate Hanukkah here, since we're in the holiday season?
Well, the amazing thing about like Hanukkah is that every Jewish community has their own tradition. Jews in Italy will cook fried chicken and they'll cook cheese latkes. Jews in Eastern Europe We'll do potato latkes. We'll do other fried foods. American Jews. The largest group of Jews that have reached America were mostly Eastern European. My family are Sephardi, and we came from Portugal, Morocco, and Spain. Sephardic Jews, we have a fried leek fritter that we do
Mm.
that is unique. So yeah, when you're talking about Hanukkah celebrations, it's all extremely localized. In my family specifically, we always did like fried chicken. We would do falafel. We would make our own fried jelly donuts called sufaganaya. And then, there are other like Southern classics that we would fit in. We've been known to do hush puppies for Hanukkah. That's almost always the traditional food is doing something oil based, doing something fried based. And, thankfully with Southern cuisine, you have a lot of options about in regards to that. And, we have the hot chicken tradition in Nashville, and I have known more than one person to integrate the hot chicken tradition into their Hanukkah tradition. I've definitely done that before.
Where will you be popping up over this holiday so people can come find you?
Yeah, the 30th of this month,
Ooh.
I am going to be down in Franklin for their holiday festival. They are having a Hanukkah fest, and it's going to be on the square. This is just, I believe, the second year doing it. They are very excited about having a Hanukkah festival. Down in Franklin, they go all out for the holidays.
Mm.
They've got the carolers. They have the people dressing like Charles Dickens characters. They really decorate downtown in the square. It's always very beautiful around the holidays. And they want to make Hanukkah a part of that. I'm going to be down there, and I'm going to be frying latkes on the square. And I'm really excited about that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, we talked about that festival. It seems like it's going to be so much fun.
I think it's going to be a blast. It's my first year doing it. And, anytime you have me frying pancakes, you're going to see me happy.
I was really impressed with your collaboration with the Bagel Shop.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing this initiative, as you know. Yeah. So you collabed with them for Rosh Hashanah.
Jewish New Year.
Yes. And we really had, a wonderful conversation about how it's really important to foster these cross-cultural experiences because you then get this food into the mouths of people that wouldn't have necessarily experienced it. And I thought that was just such a beautiful thing to do with the Bagel Shop. Are there other examples of those collabs that you've done in the past and then maybe ones that you're fostering for the future?
Oh, yeah. I've been blessed with some really great opportunities. Where I started over at Rosemary and Beauty Queen over in 5 Points, that's where the concept started. I was one of the only employees that was kept there during the pandemic just because we couldn't have too many people working there at one time. And so, I was kind of doing all the to-go cocktails and I was doing to-go food. And, we were kind of in a rough place with it, as every restaurant and every bar and every venue was during the pandemic. And I basically said, hey, I had this idea for a pop-up.
Mm.
What if I did it to drum up some business? And they're like, sure. Sure. Honestly, anything could be better than all the difficulties we've been having. And so, yeah, I did the very first one at the end of 2020. Yeah, since then, I've had some really great opportunities. Hawthorne asked me to come do an event with them. RIP. They were a great place. Chef John always strove really for the quality of food there. And that was amazing. An amazing team over there. And they helped me realize and elevate a lot of dishes I'd been doing. I did 4 days over at Culture & Co. over in the L&L market. And the menu was regional Texas cuisine. So one day I did North Texas, one day I did West Texas, one day I did East Texas, and one day I did South Texas. And then just this year, did my first out-of-state pop-up. I went to Richmond, Virginia. There is a restaurant there called Jufro. The head chef is Jewish and his sous chef is Nigerian.
Oh, wow.
And it's all inspired by 1970s music. And so thus, Jufro. it makes sense.
Right.
and and they do African Jewish fusion cuisine. And we did a chef versus chef event. We basically just came up with a bunch of concepts, threw them in a hat, shook it up, and pulled out 5 ideas. I was 1 point away from winning in like 3 of the dishes.
And it was his home turf.
It was his home turf. He knew his kitchen, and I'd also just drove for 9 hours. So I'm not going to say that contributed. Sound like a sore loser. But we very much want to do a rematch with him coming to Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
So,
we'll take him down. Listen to me. I get very competitive. I'm like, come on down.
Yeah, no, we'll see how he goes here, not on his home turf. And if he still wins, then we know, hey, good game.
Good game. Well, so I've been so impressed. You look at your kind of resume and you bop around town. Rosemary Beauty Queen, you mentioned. Thank you for the vegan queso. That was unbelievable, by the way. Dino's, Urban Cowboy, Pinky Ring Pizza. What appeals to you about this type of lifestyle, this roving pop-up lifestyle?
I don't think it would be a surprise to anyone to find out that I have ADHD. There are so many creative people out there, and getting to talk to other chefs and work in their environments, it's always very involving. It's very stimulating, having to come up with solutions, having to be creative, to sort out how to execute something in someone else's space. Yeah, that's always appealing to me. It's always an adventure. You can't just be complacent.
I do have to pivot because obviously there's been a rise of anti-Semitic behavior, specifically over the summer downtown. I'd love to just hear your perspective of what that feels like, but then also, are you finding supportive community from your neighbors? Would you mind talking a little bit about that? We'd love to hear your perspective.
Anti-Semitism has a long history. It's been around basically as long as Jews have been. And, it metastasized and it has evolved differently. You can go back to the ancient Greeks, the Hellenistic period, thousands of years ago. And they were just super irritated because they were like, why are Jews so obsessed with being Jewish? Why can't they just be Greek and be happy? And, that evolved over time during the medieval era. Jews in Europe, Jews were often in ghettos, and they would be within communities that they would be forced within. And, Jews historically have always served a important purpose for nefarious people, because Jews are usually forced in their own communities. So it's easy to say, oh, what are those Jews doing in there? It doesn't even occur to them, oh, we forced them to live in there. They're not like hiding there for their own good graces. We like forced them in a little box, and then they ask us what we're doing in the box. If you have some group that is the other, people are always going to try to make you focus on that other group. They're like, oh, they're not like you and me. They're up to something. And that's been the case with a lot of minority groups, religious minorities, racial minorities, sexual minorities. Like, if you have some kind of out group that there's something unusual about them according to the majority, it is very easy to kind of project whatever bad guy intent you want on that community. And that continues up into modern day. Anti-Semitism, just the word anti-Semitism is a scientific dress up of the older Judenhass, which is Jew hate. That continues to modern day, where, I've gotten a nice rainbow of less than charitable messages. I've been accused of being in league with demons.
Wow.
This is an old one. This is a classic. I've been accused of putting the blood of my victims in my food. Uh, yeah, that explains the brisket,
Mm.
of
Wow.
course. Uh,
Oh my
that
gosh.
that brisket is only so good because he's a serial killer.
Oh.
Um,
Mm.
and then this over the summer we had a visit from everyone's best friend, the Nazi. But yeah, I actually had a run in with them during the Nashville Together rally. They paid us a visit, and I was serving hot dogs for the event. And they came and they shoved a camera in my face, and they were like, "Oh, you're the Jewish cowboy. How are you?" And I was like, I'm fine. Do you want a hot dog?" And and they were like, shoving the camera in my face, and they're like, "Oh yeah, will you sell me a hot dog?"
Mm.
And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, get in line."
Ah.
And they were like, "Oh, are these kosher hot dogs?" And I'm like, "Well, they're kosher style, because yeah." And they're like, "Oh, what does that mean?" I just like, "Well, kosher style means that it might be kosher, but it's not under supervision, but you don't have any." And I just gave them the Wikipedia definition, and they were like, "Oh, you're not
Mm.
giving us a reaction." They very quickly like wandered off because they realized that I wasn't going to give them a reaction.
Mm.
And they're like, "So you'd sell me a hot dog?" And I'd be like, "Yep." And they're like, "Oh, all you care about is money, right?" I'm like, "Well, I do run a business."
I do own a
uh,
local business in town where
I can't keep going if I don't make money.
oh,
Uh, and he was like, "Well, I I guess I wouldn't be a very good Nazi if I bought a hot dog from a Jew."
wow.
And I mean, like, I'm not even doing like a bit. I'm not even
Right.
doing an impression. All he just talked like that, and because you quickly realize that camera is not just to make you feel uncomfortable. That camera is for his audience, because that all is being live streamed to a chat room, and they are all egging him on in the chat room. They're saying, "Oh, go say a racial slur to that person. Ooh, make fun of that guy's glasses. Ooh, make fun of that guy's nose." He's basically just being encouraged to do antisocial things by edgelord teenagers
Mm-hmm.
and racists sitting in their mom's basements. The more over the top he goes, the more they donate. And is a very sad person.
Mm-hmm.
He's a failed rapper.
Oh.
He's a failed comedian, and being a Nazi influencer has been the only thing that's given him a modicum
Mm.
of success his entire life. So yeah, no, he is such a failure that he now has to, you know, ham bone for edgelord teenagers to make rent money. And so you quickly realize, oh, these people are clowns.
Mm-hmm.
This is the person that I'm supposed to be afraid of. At least like the original Nazis had like uniforms and tanks. You guys are just a bunch of douchebags in shorts. Like you're not you're not really a threat.
Mm-hmm. Now, was that instinctual to not respond? Had you been, I know I saw a couple of things floating on Instagram saying like, do not respond, do not engage, do not allow them, to get a rise.
Yeah, well, I mean, trolls feed on emotional reactions. And that's all he is. He's just a troll of another kind. You say the most outlandish thing possible, and then people's hackles get raised, and you're like, "Ha ha ha, I have been able to cause you to have an emotional reaction. I now have validation." And that's the whole thing. And if you do not give them a show, they get bored and people sign off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm going to go, I don't know, throw firecrackers into a dumpster. I'm bored. Like, I'm going to go throw glass against a brick wall in
Mm-hmm.
the shitty town I live in. And One of the best solutions you can give a troll is boredom.
Well, I want to end on a very, very simple question. This has been really special talking to you. Thank you. Do you think food can heal hate? How can it comfort us? How can it bring us together? But really, do you think food can heal hate?
Yes, if you just give it the opportunity. I think one of the greatest solutions to hating someone is to see them as a human being. It is easy to hate someone when you dehumanize them, when they are not a person that loves and hates and has flaws and makes mistakes and, has to sit down and make a meal. And sitting down and sharing a meal with another person is one of the purest, most intimate things you can do with them. Look them in the eye, lower your voice, have a conversation with them, be willing to listen. I don't think it's a coincidence that segregationists wanted other people that they did not want to see as human to sit over there. I don't want you sitting at my table. I don't want you looking at me. Because if I have to look you in the eyes, I have to question if you're human or not. Because then I have to experience your soul. I think even the most hateful person on the planet, if they just sit down and have a genuine conversation with me, let me cook for them, I think that they would question themselves at the very least. I don't think that is going to cause someone to change immediately, but I think that the very basic seed of empathy relies on seeing other people as human beings with both the beauty of them and their warts. And it is very, very easy when you want to hate a group of people you have to generalize them. They are all the same. They all believe the same thing. There are no dissidents. If they all believe the same wrong thing, yeah, they're not humans, they're robots. And I think that food is a universal thing that everyone has to do, hopefully once a day, at least. You're eating at least something. And that is an experience that everyone has of sitting down and having to eat something. One of the most loving things that somebody else can do for me is cook for me.
Mm.
So when I do that for someone else, I have hope for a genuine human connection there. That's what I know how to do. I know how to cook, and I know how to reach out to people through food. And all people have to do is take a bite.
Thank you so much again for making time for us. And I can't wait for our listeners to come find you this next year and taste your food and maybe even give you a hug.
Well, they're always welcome. I definitely came from a
with
hugging
consent.
family.
Yeah, with consent.
Yeah. I'll pretty much always be consenting to hugs, but there may be a lot of times, especially the pizza kitchen, that you do not want to hug me as I am covered in flour. So really, it's you don't want to hug me right now.
Circle back.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. This really was so great. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great being here, and thank you so much for all the great conversations you've been having with people in the city. It's been awesome.
Thank you. That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And be sure to follow Jewish Cowboy on Instagram. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!